Hey there, it's Jordan. I'm delighted to be joined by former Flint Mayor Karen Weaver, who was elected and came into office really at the height of the Flint water crisis and is now running again for mayor to try and get elected for a second time. Today is the 8-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis, and I think, Madam Mayor, that a lot of people get numb to the term crisis because it's been used so much that kind of loses its significance. But for my reporting, which you're pretty familiar with, it's still an ongoing crisis in Flint, but it's certainly not being treated that way, in my view, by the media as well as the current mayor.
And you know what? And so let me start by saying thank you to you because you're absolutely right. And that's a bad thing. We're in 8 years. Today is the 8-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis. So let's just call it what it is. And it has not gotten the attention and it should not go away. A lot of people think that because it's gotten quiet, that everything is good in Flint. And everything in Flint is not good as far as it relates to what is going on with the water, with what we should have received as a result of what has happened, where we are, all of those things. We shouldn't be having some of this conversation. I ought to be sitting here, Jordan, saying to you, all of the pipes have been replaced. I shouldn't be saying that has not taken place, that all of the pipes have not been fixed. I should be saying that people's in-home plumbing and fixtures and appliances, that those things have been addressed, but they haven't. I should tell you that people know exactly what's going on with the water, where we are with the numbers, all of that, but none of that is happening. I should even be telling you that someone has been held criminally accountable, that there have not only been charges, but there have been convictions, but I can't tell you that. I should be saying we've got a just settlement. And so, I mean, all of these things. But it's sad that 8 years later we're still having that conversation about what has not taken place in Flint, and that so many people don't know that it has not happened.
And there's a lot of areas to touch on, but I want to start with the most important. Is the water safe? And frankly, I covered just by knocking on doors in 2018, based on sourcing, that the former governor Rick Snyder and his environmental department were manipulating the data. I mean, they were running residents' water right before taking tests, which I know you had heard about while you were mayor, and I had over 30 residents on the record that the environmental department came into their homes and was flushing the lines right before testing that day. Governor Whitmer was on camera acknowledging that the testing was done the wrong way. To my knowledge, that was the data that the state used to declare the water safe and shut down those water pods. And today, there's less testing in Flint. I can't, I'm not there every day, but from the residents I speak with, residents still are experiencing rashes from water, foul smelling water. Can you kind of touch on, obviously you're not a scientist, but you as mayor had a health expert next to you.
Yes,
Is the water safe? Because that's what the media has said.
you know what? And that's why, you brought up a very good point, because people say, why doesn't Flint trust the water? Well, for very good reason. You can test the water and you might get some good results, maybe. But like you said, was that testing done properly? Because you're not supposed to do that kind of flushing before you test. The other thing is, all of the pipes haven't been changed. So why would people trust the water when all of the pipes haven't been changed? Even if, take for instance over here, if the pipes have been changed in front of my house and the water's testing good, my in-home plumbing, my fixtures, appliances were damaged as a result of that corrosive water. And that's why from the very beginning, one of the things we asked Governor Snyder and current Governor Whitmer was, we need these things addressed at no cost to the people. So when your appliances have been corroded, your fixtures, all of those things. So if I turn on my water, I'm getting bad water because they're all corroded. So you still don't have access for many of the residents. And that's why we don't trust. I'll tell you another reason we don't trust. We don't know where they are with the pipe replacement. We used to have to give an update every Monday. of the number of pipes that have been changed, the testing that was going on. And we also had meetings in place where we not only had city residents, we had school staff personnel from the local school and from the state. We had MDEQ, which is now Eagle, at the table. We had the EPA. We had scientists. We had physicians at the table. And these were meetings that were live streamed so the community could hear in real time what was going on. Those were things that we asked to stay in place. And it has not happened. And so that's why people don't trust, because this information isn't being communicated to the public about what is going on, or let me say, what is not going on.
And, also, I think it's important to say, because frankly, nationally, the media has not reported this at all.
Right.
The city, under the current mayor, has again switched the water without
Correct.
much say from residents. I don't want to get too in the weeds, but for my audience that knows, basically the water crisis happened because of a pipeline deal. You were not mayor at that time, called the Karagandhi Water Authority, which was a completely new water system. Frankly, a completely unnecessary new water
There
system.
you go.
Flint had been receiving its water from Detroit's water system for decades. They didn't have a problem. The rates, local officials complained of higher rates. So they built a brand new water system that, while it was under construction, they were going to use the Flint River temporarily, but they, forgot to do basic things like add corrosion control chemicals. Actually, the plant was so ill-equipped and needed millions of dollars in upgrades that it didn't even have the proper equipment when they switched the water to add the proper chemicals. But why I bring this up is, under the explanation of, the Great Lakes Water Authority, which Flint had been getting its water from, now there's repairs going on, so we're going to start using the KWA water. And it seems like that's been going on for months, and I don't see an end in sight.
Right. And, they really did it under the radar. Many residents did not know that this had taken place. An article came out on I think it was a Friday evening, And so I remember we talked about this when I was on the air, but a lot of people didn't even know that it happened. I said, here we go again. And that's another reason for all of the mistrust. And, you brought up such a good point. For over 50 years, we had been with, at that point, it was it DWS, Detroit Water Sewer, DWS something, and with no problems. And it was a setup. It was just really a setup, because we were Detroit's largest, we were the largest city buying water from Detroit. And then we in turn sold it to the smaller cities that were in Genesee County. And so it was a way to set Detroit up for failure as well, was to take Flint, their largest customer, away from them. And then we couldn't sell water after that. I mean, where does that make sense, Jordan? It doesn't make sense any place. It doesn't make sense any place. And this has just been such a cover up from the whole time, because, they did it, like you said, under the guise of, we're going to save money. But it was really, I'm going to say plot. I'm going to use that word, plot, for a few people to get richer. There was no reason for us to go off of the source that we were on. And then who ever heard of switching a source without testing? How do you forget corrosion control in the Flint River, of all places?
Right. And also, in January, I broke a story with Status Coup in The Guardian that the original Flint water criminal team, for those that don't know, there was an investigation going on starting in 2016 through 2019. It had a special prosecutor, and current Attorney General Dana Nessel, when she entered office in 2019, she cleaned house and fired them all. But we broke that original team was on the verge of filing RICO charges, racketeering charges, which has been used throughout history against mafia, organized crime, against state officials for what you and I just talked about, that pipeline deal, which was based on fraud. Interestingly enough, the current Attorney General and her team never followed through and filed those charges. I know you've had some words for the current Attorney General. We should also say, I broke a year ago that the original prosecution team that she fired, they were building a case against the governor for involuntary manslaughter. When they were fired, this current Attorney General, who is up for re-election, Dana Nessel, her her team charged him with a misdemeanor.
Right.
So you're trying to become mayor again. Obviously, you need good relations with state officials, but the facts are the facts. It's a tale of two investigations, and the original one seemed to be gunning for more aggressive financial charges
Hmm.
and charges against the governor.
Correct. You're absolutely right. And we were led to believe that, or this is what was said to us in Flint when I was in office, is justice delayed is not justice denied. And we want to make sure we have everything necessary to be able to bring the appropriate charges. Well, I don't understand how a misdemeanor and $1,000 fine is an appropriate charge for what took place in Flint when you talk about loss of life, damage to properties, and it goes on and on. And those are just some of the things we know. There's still much more that could happen that we don't even know about,
Right.
and time will tell. Time will
Right.
tell. And that's why we're so outraged also, not only about these charges that were dropped and everything starting again and coming back with, I said it was a slap on the wrist as far as Governor Snyder. But the other thing is this unjust settlement that we know the math doesn't add up, and we know it does not reflect the value of the lives and the damage and the loss that happened to the people in this community.
And that's about 600, over $600 million the settlement was. But when you break it down per family child, I mean, you're talking about maybe the price of a used car.
And when you take off the 200 that the attorneys get, or maybe it's 180 million, almost 200 million that the attorneys get, and you keep in mind that McLaren Hospital was able to take 15 million back.
Right.
So I mean that pot really shrank. So we're talking $400 million that is to be distributed among the people, and no one knows what they get except those that lost a loved one due to Legionnaires during that time. It doesn't take into consideration anyone that died from pneumonia. It does not do anything for those that lost children as a result of stillbirth and miscarriage because of this water. I mean, we look at these special education rates that have, skyrocketed in the city of Flint, and the juvenile justice system and everything that's going on. It doesn't add up, and it's insulting. It's
Right.
insulting that while Governor Whitmer did not create the water crisis in Flint, but talked about making Flint whole, brought this kind of settlement to the people, and we are supposed to be happy about that. We're supposed to be excited and rejoice, and it's just like I said, it's insulting. It's
Right.
insulting.
Well, it's actually, that was going to be my next question, because I think there's, the state of Michigan has really pushed out data that objectively anyone with a brain cannot believe. So they've basically said 12 people died
Right? Where'd they
from
get
this.
that? Come on.
Right. 12
Hey,
people
every
died from
time I
the
read
Legionnaire.
that.
Right. But I can tell you through old fashioned reporting, um, we knocked on doors a couple years ago, and just through being there, I mean, I've been there almost 20 times in 5 years. Every time I go there, you hear of either sources I know or their family or friends. Another person just got cancer at a
Mhm.
relatively young age,
Exactly.
no family history of it. Other folks having liver or kidney failure,
Correct.
folks developing, rare types of illnesses. And because there was no, from the start of this, no registry to
Mhm.
track residents and health problems. Uh, who the hell knows how many people have become very sick or died from this?
And that's what we're saying as well. Just what you're saying. And so for this settlement to come, and once you've said yes, okay, well, that's it for you. That's it for you. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that, does it? I mean,
Right.
that's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And and that's why we're so outraged when we talk about where are we 8 years later, with an unjust settlement. No one has gone to prison. Uh, I mean, the pipes, I mean, not even the pipes are done. And nobody is outraged by this, that the pipes aren't done. I mean, you think about it, Jordan, every Monday we updated the community. Every Monday. If we missed a step, the state called us out, but they wanted this water crisis to go away.
Right.
And that's just the bottom line. So it's not like anyone's fooling us. We know what the objective was, and it was for this water crisis to go away. But when you look at the destruction that it has left behind, and like you said, every time you come, you hear more and more and more. I have a sister that works at a funeral home here in Flint, and she brought up just what you brought up, as far as there are a lot of young people that are dying from cancer and different kinds of illnesses that just seems like, wait a minute, how did this happen? These things weren't happening before. And then we go through that, and then here comes COVID. And I do believe, had we not been poisoned by this water, that more of us would have survived COVID in the city of Flint. We would have had better outcomes. But when our immune systems were already compromised, it's difficult to fight something off.
Right. And also, I've said this before, people are kind of like over COVID, right? The
Right.
pandemic for 2.5, 3 years. I mean, you guys been living in a pandemic for 8 years that
Exactly.
has no end in
About your
sight.
mental health and well-being and what that does. I mean, it's a bad place to be. And that's why I say this settlement is not reflective of everything we have been through and are still going through
Right.
in the city of Flint.
From a big picture, I just want to say straight out and ask you, can you imagine? Can you imagine any city, like any urban city on the East Coast, on the West Coast, New York City, Washington, D.C., LA, San Francisco? If anything like this happened, and 8 years later, I don't even think it would take 8 months. You would have possibly the National Guard in there. You would have had the Army Corps of Engineers in there to dig up the damn pipes. Not in 8 years, pretty much right away. Frankly, I don't even use the term environmental racism. I just say
Mhm,
racism
mhm.
because in what other
And that's
picture?
what it is. And that's exactly what it is. But that's, something that a lot of people don't want you to talk about. And while we knew it, we all knew that right from the beginning. Like, and I don't know if I've said this to you before, maybe I have, but it's almost like somebody else had to come and validate what we already knew. I mean, we knew brown water was bad. We knew stinky water was bad. We knew water from the Flint River was bad. Let's just say that. Uh, uh, but we had to wait for scientists to say, yes, you're right, brown water is bad, and here's what's in it. I mean, we knew that. We knew that what happened was because of race and class in the city of Flint. Yet we had to wait a year and a half for it. Who was it? The Michigan Department of Civil Rights to put that report forward. And I mean, thank God in the report they outlined it and validated it. But it's always until somebody else comes and validates what we know that it's even, oh, okay, well, maybe they're right. But it's been so quiet. It has been
Mhm.
so quiet. And it was funny because I was talking with somebody else. They said, oh, I came back to Flint. I thought everything was done. I thought it's like, and I came back and here's what I saw and here's what I heard. I'm like, yes. And that's what people need to know. And that's why, we always said that Flint should stay in the national spotlight because how Flint gets treated is how other communities, especially urban, Black, or when you're not in the right socioeconomic status, communities will be treated. I mean, because Flint was the blueprint for what to do as far as how you can handle a crisis and get through this and the lessons learned. It was also a blueprint for what not to do. So you tell me why Benton Harbor happened.
Right. Absolutely. And, I just want to go through real quick because
Okay.
we might have some new viewers here.
Okay.
I want to go through not out of arrogance, just like everything we've broken. Because in a normal media system, any one of these things, other outlets would have taken what I broke and
Right.
ran with it. So
Exactly.
over the last 2.5 years, our reporting has shown Governor Snyder's top advisor, his right hand man, was offering payoffs to sick Flint residents and told residents the governor knew about it. Our next story, we obtained the phone logs of Governor Snyder, his chief of staff, and health director. That not my conclusion. Prosecutors concluded based on this avalanche of phone calls 6 months after the water switch that they knew about the Legionnaire's disease that was killing people, and they covered it up weeks before the governor's reelection as governor in 2014. Then we broke that the governor's top officials, including his press secretary, their phones were erased right before the launch of a criminal investigation, with all their text messages from the 18 months Flint was on the Flint River mysteriously gone. In that story, we also showed that the governor would not cooperate with prosecutors for years, refusing to hand over key briefings and other key documents. And earlier this year, we broke that the original investigation was going to file RICO charges, but that mysteriously disappeared. I mean, all of this combined shows a massive government cover-up
Right.
that I know when you were mayor, you had difficulty with the media in Flint and the state. But it seems to me the media has been complicit in this cover-up by basically ignoring not opinions, but facts and
Fact.
reporting coming from documents from a criminal investigation.
Correct. And you forgot one. You know what else you reported on was when the governor Snyder came to me and asked me to get Elijah Cummings off of his back.
Right.
Remember that too.
Yes, that's a big one.
He wanted me to talk with him. And because he said, yeah, I said, how are you doing? It was the first time he and I really talked since he told me to get over it. And he was out of office. It was switching. They were changing the guard. It was the day that Governor Whitmer was going to be sworn in, and Governor Snyder was there. And it was our first time talking. And that was what he asked me to do. And I thought, wow, you've got some nerve. I didn't say nerve. I said he had some other things. But right here, I'll say you've got some nerve, because I can't believe the last conversation you and I had, you were telling me to get over it. Now you want me to help you? Would I go and talk with Elijah Cummings and help get him off of your back? I hope he's all over your back. And I know he was relieved at the passing of him, because he was nervous about that, because Elijah Cummings had said, I said, I want to be there when you question him. He said, I am going to have you right there in the front. That never happened after his passing. But he was, still trying to get himself out of trouble after he said to me, tell the residents of Flint to get over it. Wow.
And he was the House Oversight Chairman. So
That's right.
he would have had the power to haul Snyder back in there, because based on my reporting, Snyder perjured himself in front of Congress back in 2016.
Exactly.
My final question, you're running against the current mayor who narrowly defeated you a couple years ago. From everything I could see, he has done very little on the water. He has towed the line that the water's fine. It's a trust issue in Flint. And he has been the leading figure pushing Flint onto this new water system. Again, you're talking about a community that was traumatized by a water switch, and now you're switching the water again while we're still unclear on the status of the water quality. Talk about your opponent, and also, if you are reelected, what Flint residents should expect as far as fighting for justice. Obvious from the looks of it, unless something changes, it would be Governor Whitmer. Still in office, but who knows? She's up for re-election too. What could people expect from you that might be different than your first term?
You know what? Well, I'll tell you one thing they can expect is what I'm going to do differently is when a person, let me just use the word lies on you, I'm going to address it immediately, because that's what this current mayor did, was lied on me. And it was interesting to me because, somebody said, yeah, we're still waiting for indictments. Well, they're not coming because I didn't do anything. But, I was so busy and so focused on Flint that I thought, who would even believe these things as much as I had been trying to do for the people? I just didn't think people would believe those kinds of lies. But they do. And so that's one thing I'm going to do much differently, is address those lies as soon as they come out and not let anybody do that to me again, because it doesn't mean that you're not taking the high road when you address what is real and what's not. So I'm not going to let loud lies outweigh the quiet truth. I'm going to flip that script, and also just making sure we get some more information to the residents. But you know what? There's some things that need to be addressed. When I was out of office, I hadn't planned on running, but this city is going in such a terrible direction that I felt like I have to do something. Somebody had to do something, because you're right. This water crisis should not go away because we have not gotten through it. We need to continue with that. We need to make sure we get these pipes changed, continue to speak up and speak out for what people need as far as their in-home the in-home infrastructure that we've talked about, if you want to start establishing trust and start getting this information back out to the community. But there's some real basic things that are going on in Flint that we need to do, and that's crime. I mean, we had been out of the top 25. We had gone from the top 1, 2, 3. We were always dancing in that area. We've got to address crime because crime is running rampant in Flint. And the answer to that is not crime is high everywhere. That's not an answer. You have to be proactive. You need to have a plan in place to address this. Somebody said to me the other day, and it hurt me when they said, Flint, they said, it just looks like a trash can. Blight is out of control. We've had 47 million that has been here. It will be a year next month. That money should have been spent. The community has been crying out to address these kinds of issues. It has not happened. It needs to happen. Those are some of the things, and being a mayor in a crisis, you had to address the crisis before you could do other things. We had gotten economic development. I understand that's been given back to people that their best interest or their priority is not the city of Flint. So it's out of the city's hands again. We're going to bring that back because Flint is a great place to have immediate impact. It's a small enough place where you can see things happen quickly. Not everything, but a lot of things. And so we need to bring that back. But there were a lot of programs and things that I was really interested in doing that it was like, oh, wow, maybe we'll finally get to do some of these other things because we're doing so well with the pipe replacement and the issues around that crisis. I have a lot of other things. I've been meeting with different people and talking about what is the Flint you want to see and how do we come together and put that in place. But I'll tell you what else has to happen. The city needs to be united. There's been so much divisiveness because of the misinformation and the lies that have been spread, and healing this community is, that's a priority, and it's something that is going to be focused on. We need to, it's just important. And doing this for our young people, they've really been impacted. They have really, really been impacted. And so we've got to do something to not only support our young people, but to keep them here and to bring them home and give them some hope, because Flint needs hope. A lot of people see problems and I see promise. And so that's what excites me is this time around, we get to focus on some of those other things. It doesn't mean that the water is not going to be addressed and we're not going to finish doing what we started as far as that goes. But it's also an opportunity to do some other important things that this city needs to have done. So I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. And I hope people have seen that I didn't stop fighting for Flint when I was out of office. So I never stopped. I want people to know I didn't have to be in that position then to do that, to continue to speak up and speak out. And while I may have lost that last election, it doesn't mean I've lost my passion or my focus for Flint. And that's what I want people to know.
And one more. What would be your message to the Attorney General? She's up for re-election. They say her team has said the investigation's still open, but as of now, there's delay after delay after day. The governor's team is trying every legal trick to get the charges dismissed. And they say they're investigating, but again, all we have seen is a misdemeanor charge against Governor Snyder. From my reporting, there's a lot of other figures that haven't been charged that should be.
Exactly.
And because
justice, we want it and we deserve it, and we are not satisfied. We are not satisfied. That's why one of the things I've always talked about is, you be careful with your vote. You have to be very careful. What did we get? What did we get for that? We haven't gotten anything that we should have gotten. There has been no accountability for what has taken place in Flint. That was murder. It was murder that took place in Flint. So it's almost like, and I know you and I have said this, how to get away with murder. Because that's what has happened. How to get away with damaging people, how to get away with having kids not reach their full potential, how to get away with putting physical illness on people and mental anguish and torment. Those are all the things that we should be, they should have been held accountable for those things. And I don't want them to think that we don't see that. We are not happy, and we're going to continue, I know I am, to speak out about that because we deserve that. We deserve that.
Absolutely. Thank you, former Flint
Thank,
mayor.
thank you. Thank you for keeping our story out there. Thank you so much. We appreciate you so much for doing that. So I want to say thank you to you as well.
What can I say? I'm old fashioned. I don't think when a city gets poisoned, there's a massive cover up and then they get left to slowly die.
Right.
That should be on the back burner. I think that should be front page
Thank
until there's some justice. So thank you,
you.
and we'll continue covering this election. Take care.
Okay. Thanks. See you
Sure.
later.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.